Ladies and gentlemen, he is a multiple contest winner throughout the years here in Las Vegas. Won the 2016 College Football Stations Casino Last Man Standing contest, having defeated over 2,500 competitors, taking in a cool $52,000. Before then, won the Win Eliminator contest for $100,000, the Palms contest in 2011, and then finished 20th and 31st at Circa Millions a couple years back, then 2nd and 5th in Circa Millions this past year. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Las Vegas Chris. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
There's a couple obligatory things happening here. The first is, it occurs to me as I rattle those off, people are gonna have a very basic question, which is mine too. If someone asks you how you sustain that kind of success, what do you tell them?
I think one of the things that I do the best is to keep an open mind all week. I infuriated a lot of people last year because they would want to know what I was picking. And it actually is sort of my attitude toward futures also, is if you don't have an open mind for as long as possible and you predisposition yourself, then you're only going to absorb information that validates what you're kind of thinking, if that makes any sense. So I've been there 15 minutes before picks are going in, and I realize I got to bet the other side. I mean,
wow.
So, and I don't have a problem taking teams opposite what I bet. I don't mind taking strange teams that seemingly make no sense. So just having an open mind, trying not to be like everybody else, knowing I have to do something different, which would definitely apply to Survivor. Anybody that's listening on that, you can't win if you play what everybody else plays. So you better be different or don't sign up.
Are you like that with other things in your life too? Like if your wife were here right now, would she be like, "Oh, it's only football that he does this. Everything else, he can't be talked off a position."
No, I try to be open-minded. I obviously on some things like politics or foods or stuff like that, I'm gonna be a little entrenched. But I like to listen, and I can be swayed on certain things.
Even that is self-aware, though. The fact that you know what you're more entrenched on than other things. Here's the other obligatory thing is, and you know how this goes too. If anybody's listening, they're like, "Oh, this guy, all he does is win." You've also had a bad stretch betting other things lately.
Oh yes, I have paid the price since February. I'll tell you, it's been probably the best thing that could possibly happen is getting my ass handed to me over the last few months. Kind of brought me back down to earth a little bit, but I made a huge mistake because this is this first summer since 2005, other than the COVID summer, that I'm actually in the United States.
Right.
So I don't normally do all the other sports that were going on, and I started to dabble when they all started, and I had a little bit of success, and I tried to do too much. I was working 17-hour days to lose money week after week after week, and it was very frustrating because, it's when you're working hard to work hard, that's no fun. So
then, as you say that, there's going to be some people like, "Oh, so he's a contest player. He's not really a bettor." But during football season, you did better on your actual bets than the contest plays.
Yeah, that's the strange thing is last year on NFL sides, I think I did 66 or 67% in Circa. My betting was actually 68%. So stale numbers and were no benefit to me.
Jeez. We got some numbers we're going to look at here momentarily. But just the rate at which you beat closing line value is spectacular. And then even when your football run with the contest the last couple of years, even when you don't beat the closing line, your rate of success has been unbelievable. Do you consider, we'll take a look at that after the break, but do you consider that to be sustainable?
Well, I'm not sure. I got really excited about it because there was a lot of talk on Twitter about CLV, and I was aware that it just seemed like I was winning the games that I didn't have great line value on, that I had lost line value. So I actually looked it up, and I had missed closing line value 19 times and won 17 of those. So I'm like, okay, now I'm on to something. I'm going to go back to the previous years, and I've got the super duper super luck.
We'll take a look at those numbers. By the way, I think CLV, like in the NFL, matters typically. Maybe not like, someone who's not a mere mortal like you. But like I've gone seasons in baseball beating it. It hasn't mattered a thing. I'll have losing seasons. We'll look at Chris by the numbers and ask him a whole bunch of questions about what contest he might be playing this year. It's a numbers game at VSIN, the sports betting network. Chris, appreciate you being here this morning. We have some pictures that show your better days of collecting checks. There you are. This is that's a $200,000 check and a $33,000 plus check. Is that from finishing second and fifth, respectively?
Correct. And there was a second place for the quarter.
Not pictured. Here's another picture we have here. Note that your wife is the only one using good mask judgment there.
Well, she forgot to take it off. She laughed afterward. I forgot to take off my mask.
This is Mike Palm and Derek Stevens. And, is that Ralph? Ralph Michaels there on the left? I recognize Ralph. They're in the middle. Or they're on the left side. So that's also part of the winnings at Circa. Little photo op there. Now, here are the stats we referred to moments ago. This is Chris by the numbers. This is your Circa Million stats over the last 2 seasons. Last year, you had total of 2 entries. Those are the ones that finished second and fifth. You didn't flood the zone with entries. 2 entries out of 3,148 total entries. You finished second and fifth. The year before that, just 2 entries again out of 1,875 total. You finished 20th and 31st, tie for both of those. By the way, T2 and T5, also a tie for 20th and 31st the year before that. And so the other way you can look at this is your total plays for the 2 seasons at Circa Million, 212, 120, and 8 out of the 340 combined plays. Your 4-entry average, 64% then, basically, at 53, 30, and 2. And again, those are the only 4 entries you played. The other way to look at it is, of the 5,019 entries played those 2 years at Circa, only 51 total entries finished higher than your 4. That is ridiculous. You're a ridiculous man is what you are. So if people listening to this are like, okay, that's great. He's awesome. I get it. How can I be better at this? And you sort of hinted at it early, the fact that you just immerse yourself in this. But what would you say to somebody who's like, okay, I want to be, maybe I'm not going to be as good as you, Chris, but I want to know, you don't have a secret. What can I do to be better at this? Or at least get in the same area code as you?
Well, you can't be careless about anything. There's a huge difference, what 2 games do to your record. If you finish the season 60-40 and you got 2 bad breaks, now all of a sudden you're only 58%. So that's a huge difference. There's not a lot of games. You have to take each week very seriously and each game very seriously. I mean, you don't go to the point of overthinking it, but personally, I feel that I've benefited from a lot of luck. I mean, there's no way you can have those numbers without being lucky. So it's not all skill. But you have to put yourself in a position of being lucky. And I've done about 15 hours of work over the last few days, and I'm not even done going through the last 400 plays I've made, and personally betting, and then also all the contest picks.
What are you looking to glean from it?
I wasn't entirely sure. I'm surprised by a few things. I want to know if there's any patterns of where I'm bleeding, so I can kind of stop it. Let's say I can't come up with a fifth game or fourth and fifth game. I want to be at the point where I've weeded out. Okay, well, we're going to cut out this category of what you like to put in because you just don't do as well in that category. So the default judgment will be in the category where I have the highest percentage of wins.
Do you mean like dogs of this amount versus
Yeah, it could
range
be.
of 7 points to 10 points, or from 4 to 7, or from even to 4-point dogs, that kind of thing. Those ranges.
Yeah, and I think what's been really important for me also is I don't chase the line moves. If anything, I'm looking to not take the line moves because why do I want to be on games everybody else is going to chase? So, I mean, there's some prominent guys, pros that come in and get in these contests, and all they do is play the line moves, thinking that that's where the value is.
Right.
And, the year we finished first and second in Golden Nugget, I don't think we played any. I mean, we literally played the bare minimum of line moves to get there. So
I'll say this. I'm going to compare you to Michael Jordan here for a second. It's going to make you super uncomfortable. Jordan was great, had great talent, but worked his butt off to even be better than his talent that was given to him. You are really good at everything you just said, and you're looking at you're researching your stuff. But it's that game theory part you just mentioned that you're probably better at than most also, would you say?
yeah, you have to have some sort of awareness of what other people are going to do. And that comes from the 20 podcasts I listen to throughout the course of the week and all the TV that I watch to try to get a pulse on, where are people. I do kind of look at the betting percentages just to get some sort of a grasp, even though betting percentages in general are meaningless, but nevertheless a small input. So you have to know what other people are going to do. In fact, we talked about what a cool contest it would be to have a contest to pick what the consensus plays would be for that week.
Mm-hmm.
So privately, I've chatted with a few people, and I think it would be really fun to see how many of the 5 each week I can get and what my record of success on that would be. And I think a few other people feel the same way because it's important.
Do you care about that stuff from week one or only later on?
Well, week one, I feel like I'm out at sea with a shark circling, and I'm just happy if a boat comes by and picks me up.
If I give you a 3-2 right now, week one, you'll take it?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I would take. Well, I'd obviously take 3-2 every week, pretty much. But that made the difference last year. Is on my one entry is I didn't even have a week worse than 3-2 until week 12.
Oh man!
So it started off well, but on my other one, I started off 1-4. So.
Got to go to break here, but 2020, 133 games that you bet on, I guess these are beyond the contest. 14.2% bad closing line value. That's it. 19 negative closing line value games total, in other words, and you still went 17-2 in them against the number. 2019, 104 games total you bet, 16% negative closing line value, 17 games, in other words. That year you went 6-10-1. By the way, 2018, 13% negative closing line value, total of 15 games, you went 11-4. So 2 out of the last 3 years, 34-16-1 when you put those 3 years together. 65% win rate in closing line value even. We'll talk about whether that's sustainable or not. I think he's already given us indication, and I'll ask as many rapid-fire questions as possible. What contest is he playing this year? Las Vegas Chris on a numbers game at VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. Here's what I talked about earlier, Chris. This is your CLV. Just, first of all, how little was ever bad closing line value. Again, where Chris got the worst of the closing number. Only 14.2% of the time, 2020, you still went 17-2 in 19. That's just like dream season. 2019, you did have you did get the worst of it on negative CLV in terms of your record, but still only 16% negative CLV, just 17 games total out of 104. And then 2018, 13% negative CLV, but 11-4. And when you add it all up, as I mentioned before the break, what is that? That's 34-16-1, 65% win rate on a total of 51 negative CLV games, or 14.6% of the 349 games you bet. This is beyond the contest over the last 3 years. That's not sustainable, right?
No, and you got to remember that one push, it cost me money.
Yes.
So, I can't begin to emphasize enough that when you're betting these games, you have to have the best of the number. You have to have line shopping available to you. And I know the average guy may not take it seriously, but you have to have multiple outs. You have to have quality outs. You have, and like a variance of good books and bad books, because you want both, because they're going to have different lines, and it makes all the difference in the world. I just did 2018 or 2019 last night, and I had a lot of pushes that year. Made a big difference. I think I had 6 pushes. That's a lot of pushes.
Yeah, and a little goes a long way. Again, I always quote these numbers like, oh, 83% of games, the spread doesn't matter. 17% is not a negligible amount of games where the spread, where the spread matters. So it's like all these little percentages that seem on paper to be, negligible are in fact the differences between winning and losing seasons oftentimes, in your case, what you were talking about.
It's huge. One game matters. Huge.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to the contest again. What was your percentage win rate the last couple of years total?
64.
64%. Okay. So the question becomes, how many times did you have dissimilar picks? That's what some might ask you. Oh, you had 2 entries. Were you always picking the same things?
What's really odd is I would go through what everybody was picking each week, and there were people that had 2 and 3 entries, and they'd use the same 5 on all of them. And I would just sit there and I go, okay, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand, for certain periods of time, you want to put yourself in a position for, down the stretch. I can kind of see that. But believe it or not, out of the 34 weeks, I have matched 5 only twice, once each season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and here's another interesting part. I have used fewer than 4 matches 50% of the weeks. So I've used either 0, 1, 2, or 3 50% of the weeks.
So that must make your head explode some weeks, right?
Well, sometimes you have to do it for various reasons. One of my entries went awry early, so I had to be different to chase back. So if you're using a math model, it's going to be really hard to win one of those quarters. And I don't think I'm ever, I haven't had an 0 and 5, and very few 1 and 4s. But I don't have too many 5 and 0s either. So
what happens? That's great. You triggered this. So if we're coming to the 4th week of a quarter, and you're in it, and could possibly win a quarter, do you change your strategy in an effort to win that quarter, or do you just keep your eye on the long season prize and just go as you would?
Well, I didn't give a crap about the quarters just because I'm just trying to do the best I can and to gain. So the one that was coming from behind, I had to use wacky games more often, different games. I had to be different. I had to make sure I wasn't little things like not taking games that are full points, because I can't afford to only gain a half a game. I need to gain a full game.
By the way, for those who don't know what we're talking about, I should probably have stated at the beginning, we're talking about Circa Millions and Westgate before that, 5 games against the spread every week in the National Football League. That's the deal, and you have 2 entries, and so you're deciding how to play both entries. That is interesting, because the quarter does add this other element where you could shift your thinking based on the short-term prize or not. So this year, the Westgate has made some adjustments to the competition that is Circa. Circa, no rake. They added contest, as we said, the quarterlies, contest within the broader contest, and the Westgate has made adjustments now. They've gone no rake for the first time. Circa has also made adjustments to their Survivor, the different rules there. What are you going to play this year now? Because you had gone away from Super Contest, right?
Yeah, I wasn't going to do Super Contest if they were going to take 6 or 8% out. I just sat it out. But, part of that also was it was a real hassle to get down there. I mean, you weren't able to do it on the app at the time, and sure, you could use a proxy, but it just wasn't, it's not my cup of tea to rely on that for every week. So, But this year, yeah, Westgate looks like it's going to be good. I'm impressed that they got their act together, and they've made that contest very interesting. I wish they would have added second and third to the gold. I think playing for one spot is really difficult, and I'm not a fan of that. I'd be a fan of that under a different set of rules, but picking 5 each week with fixed lines. I don't know whether I'm going to get in that one, but I'll get in the Westgate for sure. Probably 1 or 2 entries, and Circa. I'm afraid to go up and change because I've been doing good with 2 entries every year. So
yeah.
I'm afraid to go up to a third. And Survivor has me befuddled just because I wish they would have lowered the maximum entries instead of raised them.
I have about 7 other questions to ask you, but since you bring up Survivor, maybe we'll have you back here later this week or next week if you're able to finish out the rest of this. But Survivor, which I loved last year, right? And I got all the way to whatever it was, the final 3 weeks when the Rams lost to the Jets. I was in that group that got eliminated. Was awesome. There was the Thanksgiving week, which is, was a crapshoot. 3 games. Then I think it was reduced to 2, if I'm not mistaken,
yep.
Because the third game was canceled. Yeah, you wanted it to be fewer entries. And what else bothers you here? Because there's more crapshoot to this year as well.
Oh, well, I don't. For me personally, my personal taste, I didn't care for the added week for Thanksgiving because you're really changing the whole format in a way. It really, it is interesting, and a game is a game.
Yeah.
But you're talking serious money, and it feels a little bit like a Plinko, a little taste of Plinko. And last Thanksgiving, talking about game theory, that was a 100% math choice. It didn't matter. You had to play certain teams.
Yeah.
The math told you had to play certain teams.
I had Houston, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, Washington, you had to play Washington. You had to. Because when you had a money line that low, you had a point spread that low, but you knew 75% of the people were going to be on Dallas, you're getting 3-to-1 equity if you advance. Why do you want to advance with 75% of the other people? You want to put yourself in a position to win, and that takes risk. So,
the less Plinko, the better. And so, for a lot of money, I agree with you. It's like that's a story. I wonder if it's not going to be as fun this year because there's extra to that. Now, catch me in September and October if I'm still in it. I'll probably be whistling a different tune, but I'll still be lamenting, just like I did last year with, I can pick everything to Thanksgiving and everything afterwards, but Thanksgiving, just, hey, we'll see how it crumbles. Now, when it finally did come there, maybe there were actual choices to be made. I have one note here. Contest pick process quirks. Did we cover those? Quirks? Do you have any quirks with your process?
Oh, I think I kind of touched on it a little bit where I'm really, I really just try to wait until the last minute before making decisions, whereas a lot of people like to, I've been in partnerships and contests before, and the partners always want to know, okay, who do you like? It's Monday and Tuesday. And it's like, shut up. I'm not even thinking about it. So.
Real quick before we go. Futures? Have you played any futures?
The only future I've played are the Giants plus 500 to win the division, just because I think anybody can win that division, and I like the odds. I'm not saying that I haven't done my work per se, but at least this year I'll know something going into football. Usually I don't know a thing. So no catch-up this year.
And there is a different winner in the NFC East every year since, 2003, I believe it is, or 2004. So.
Well, if Galladay stays healthy and Barkley stays healthy and Jones just plays adequate, their defense wasn't that bad last year, much of the season.
Okay.
I think they have potential.
I got to get you back because there's other things I want to talk to you about. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll try to get Chris back about sports books, about bad beat refund policies, whole bunch of stuff. Enjoy Lombardi Line next, right here at VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.